Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you find your seats. We're about to begin the program.
One, two, one, two.
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? Welcome to the 75th commencement exercises of Claremont McKenna College. At this, yes. For everyone's enjoyment at this time, please silence your cell phones and other noise-making devices. Then stand and join me in welcoming the Claremont McKenna College class of 2023.
I had to switch off to keep myself awake.
Please stand or remain standing and remove your hats for the national anthem and invocation.
B as in boy flat.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the hope of the brave?
Good afternoon. This is the day the Lord created for the class of 2023. This day is to celebrate the culmination of 4 very interesting years. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Today is the finality of years of work, years filled with challenges, triumphs, losses, and laughter, friendship, and growth. I am sure each of you particularly grateful for being able to navigate the years of the pandemic and somehow, perhaps through divine intervention, you got through safely to this day. I am thankful for many years at CMC, so much so that one of my sons also attended this college. I still remember, even though it has been almost 50 years, how important my family, friends, professors, administrators, and coaches, how important they were to me during my time on campus, and I remain thankful to this very day. I learned many lessons while at CMC beyond the books, such as what makes a good scholar, a good leader, a good citizen of my community and my country. Yet, not written in this lesson, and that is how to seek and ask for forgiveness. Forgiveness is being late to class, missed assignments, bad grammar, even missed assignments on the football field. Yet, most importantly, forgiveness effort was the lesson of seeking forgiveness from those that may have done you wrong. I am prayerful your experiences will be as memorable and rewarding as mine as I learn to forgive. Please allow me to speak on your behalf and ask for blessings for all graduates, that you be filled with the spirit of godly love. I ask that as you go forth to set the world on fire, may you remember you are not alone in all things that you do. As you go forth in this world and continue to challenge yourselves intellectually and share the fruit of your knowledge, as you take on these challenges, we ask that you, O Lord, I pray, be with them and show them how to use their knowledge wisely to make the world a better place and to make life with its problems a little bit easier to face. I pray as they leave this place that you grant them faith and courage and put purpose in their days and show each of them how to serve the people in effective ways. So their education, their knowledge, and their skills may find true fulfillment as they learn to do your will. And may each and every one be aware in everything they do that knowledge comes from learning and wisdom comes from you. To the class of 2023, I said thank you for this opportunity, and may God bless you.
Family and friends, graduates, please remain standing as we join in singing the Alma Mater. The class of 2023 will lead you in this song that has meant so much to them for so many years. We're the sons and the daughters of Claremont McKenna, and proud of our famed alma mater, with friends of our youth, seeking wisdom, seeking truth, we will lead on from Claremont McKenna.
Good afternoon. Please remain standing. I'm just kidding. Please have a seat. Welcome. Welcome to all of you here and to those watching from around the world. It is my pleasure to welcome our trustees, our honored guests, members of the faculty, staff colleagues, families, friends, and especially our brilliant and distinguished graduates of the class of 2023. Today marks the 25th anniversary of my own graduation from Claremont McKenna College. Thank you. So in a few weeks, at reunion weekend, I will gather with alumni from across the decades to reminisce, to reacquaint with old classmates, and to meet new people who share the CMC experience. And we will undoubtedly talk about the unpredictable cadence of our lives and the experiences we have had since we walked this stage. Graduate degrees, relationships, marriages, divorces, tragedies, children born, parents lost, personal illness, career pivots, the impact of global politics, our responses to economic instability. The list goes on. Our world is messy, folks, and community matters. Shared human experiences and social warmth matter. Graduates, while you have been a student at CMC, I hope you laughed with someone so hard you cried. I hope you argued with someone with a different opinion and came around to see it their way or at least understand their point of view. I hope you sat with faculty outside of class and puzzled over the hardest concepts and realized your intellectual potential. I hope you made close friends who stuck by you, no matter how difficult times were. And as you graduate today, I hope that you will carry the power of the CMC community with you, and that you will maintain your connection to this place even as you seek new connections that will fortify your soul and nurture your heart and your mind. This afternoon, our commencement speakers will share their own reflections about community and the power of human connection. Our graduates will then cross the stage to receive their hard-earned diplomas, and we will close our ceremony with an inspired charge from President Chodosh. It is now my honor to welcome Annette NJ, the class-elected speaker, to the podium.
Thank you, DT. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, friends, families, and of course, the gorgeous class of 2023. It is my absolute honor and privilege to stand before you all today as your class-elected speaker. I first want to start off this speech by giving a huge thank you to my family for their unconditional love and unwavering support. Without them, I would not be the strong, funny, and empathetic person I am today. My time at CMC, just like many of you, began on August 25th, 2019, otherwise known as the most chaotic Sunday I have ever experienced in my life. Cars were piled up from Crown all the way down to 6th Street near the student apartments. Parents sobbing, half of us filled with the uttermost excitement, and the other half probably hiding from our future Womies and Figs. It was not until we all gathered right here on Parents Field in our bright, colorful orientation t-shirts that we realized we would be together for the next 4, or so we thought. For 6 months, we lived joyously at Camp Claremont, dancing on tables for extra credit in Professor Valenza's calculus class, partying it up in a Scripps garage, and just plain old basking in the Claremont sun. But on March 11th, 2020, our entire college experience changed forever. No, I am not gonna stand here and recount what that experience felt like because we lived it. But I will say, if you want the whole school to come together, have Chodosh send an email about our spring break being extended by a week. It is common knowledge that COVID robbed us of a true college experience, but what we fail to sometimes realize are the things we gained from doing Zoom school. To my class, look around you. Some of you barely spoke our first year, and now you have the confidence to take on the world. Some of you were shy and reserved, and now you are social butterflies. And some of you took Econ 50 and stayed with Econ. True CMCers at heart. All of us, whether we choose to believe it or not, grew as individuals. In a period of time where we adapted to the unknown, we leaned on each other, both literally and figuratively. The relationships we formed with each other are unique, as they were tested and succeeded against uncertainty. They have comforted us at our lowest points and raised a glass to our accomplishments. I mean this when I say it. There are truly no words that can describe the impact the friendships we have cultivated with each other have on all of us. Class of 2023, we are the definition of resilience. And this resilience, tells me that we are all going to be okay, be successful, and find our footing once we leave this bubble. As I look back at these last 4 years, I have learned a lot about myself, about you all, and about what it truly means to be a responsible leader and create community. At CMC, I have the opportunity to brighten up other people's day, to advocate for myself and for others, and be unapologetically me. I learned to make mistakes and take accountability for them. Most of all, I found my purpose, which is to help those around me thrive and live their best lives. President Chodosh was right. Making friends does impact the way we navigate this space, but that alone is not enough, nor is it the full solution. If there is one thing I want you to take away and remember as you leave this space, is of course my starstruck beauty. I'm just kidding. In all seriousness, I want you to remember change. As you leave here today and move on to your next chapter, know that life is not linear and neither is change. Change is a feeling, a state of mind, an experience. It's uncomfortable, uneasy, and it takes work. Change is necessary for building a community where all feel seen and valued. It's about relinquishing privilege and power to understand the lived experiences of those around you. For us, change is our best friend. She leaves room for grace. We know her, and she knows us. Congratulations, class of 2023. We did it. I will now like to welcome to the stage our senior class president, Emery Wong.
Thank you, Annette. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. I want to talk about the concept of social capital and its deterioration's effect on the American political environment. It first grabbed my attention when I read Bowling Alone in my Introduction to American Politics class with Professor Shields. Now, despite the fact that social capital has plummeted all around us, CMC has been a beacon of its own. I am incredibly proud to be the president of a class where a student can be the president of a product management club and part of the 5C DJ Club Table Manners, where a student can be on the football team and in a cappella, where a student can be a professional photographer and a published researcher in economics, where a student can be on the Athena soccer team and the CEO of the Student Investment Fund. We are a class that breaks social norms as seemingly contradictory people. We are a class full of Troy Boltons. A class where people are deeply involved in all of the clubs, associations, and academic offerings is also one with deep civic engagement. The class of 2023 transforms and improves the CMC community every single day. Our last ASCMC election had a turnout rate of over 79%. Students are constantly giving our administration and myself tons of feedback. And students constantly take advantage of the Open Academy. We are not bowling alone. Claremont McKenna College's campus has been our unique home since we are here to seek to transcend our differences and where we have built a community for each and every one of us. And I have faith that we will continue to do so even after we graduate. Despite losing so much to COVID-19, it's these qualities of curiosity and contradictions that make us such an interconnected class with immense social capital, such that we are all in this together. This is why it only seemed fitting for our commencement speaker to be Dr. Robert D. Putnam. Dr. Putnam is the Peter and Isabel Malkin Professor of Public Policy Emeritus and former Dean at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. He is also the author of 15 books, which have been translated into 20 languages, including Our Kids, The American Dream in Crisis, and his most recent book, The Upswing, How America Came Together a Century Ago and How We Can Do It Again. Dr. Putnam has also consulted the last 3 American presidents and the last 3 British prime ministers. Please welcome Dr. Robert Putnam.
Gosh, I'm going to be a disappointing act after that introduction. Thank you very much, Abali. President Kodosh, Board Chairman McGrubian, members of the CMC Board of Trustees, honored guests, and most important, the graduating class of 2023 and your family and parents. I'm delighted to be here with you today for at least 3 reasons. First of all, I am deeply grateful to CMC for allowing me to be also a graduate of CMC of 2023, and I hope you will welcome me into your ranks since I'll be getting a degree here too. You earned yours, I didn't even earn mine. Secondly, this institution represents precisely the kind of civic community that my whole life's work has been devoted to showing to be so important in a country like ours. And third, and most important, I'm delighted to join in today's celebration of the accomplishments of the graduates of 2023, and it is primarily to you that I'm going to be speaking this afternoon. They can all listen in, but you're the people that I'm speaking with. I'm sure you're feeling a variety of emotions at the moment: joy and pride at what you've accomplished, years of hard work and perseverance, and moments of doubt and moments of insight culminate in this ceremony today. So express that joy in what you've done. And secondly, gratitude to your family and friends and your teachers and your support network for helping you to reach this day. So express that gratitude now too. And anticipation for what the next step of your life will bring, your next professional achievements, the deepening pleasures of family and friends, and your role of leadership in America and in the global community. Because the degree you receive today and the place from which you receive it signifies that you will play a leadership role. As a friend of mine, and I'll come back to this later, as a friend of mine says, your lives speak louder than your words. And I want to come back to that. But in today's remarks, I want to focus on those broader responsibilities that await you, drawing on several lessons from history and on my own research and even my own life experiences. I'm aware, and I'm warning you all, that these remarks will be more challenging and less lighthearted than you might very well expect in this time, but I'm confident, and the President has assured me, that CMC students are more than up to a challenging, not just a congratulatory commencement address. So let's begin right here, right in this beautiful place. I mean, do you know what a beautiful place this is? I hope you do. I'm new to it. It's an enormously beautiful place. And Claremont McKenna College was built by the greatest generation right here, the veterans of World War II. Leading that generation, when it later on reached the peak of its powers nationally, was another distinguished veteran, sadly not a graduate of CMC, but a man named John F. Kennedy, who was the first veteran from World War II to become president. He was inaugurated president in January 1961. And as it happens, that inauguration played a key role in my own life. So I hope you'll allow me a bit of an old man's reminiscing here. I promise you it'll turn out to be relevant to the rest of this story. In the fall of long ago, 1960, think of that, in the fall of 1960, I was a sophomore at Swarthmore College, just outside Philadelphia, a place much like CMC, small and very much public-spirited. I was then a STEM major. It wasn't called STEM, but I was majoring in math or physics or engineering or science of some sort. But I had to take distribution requirements. Do you have distribution requirements here? Well, I had to take one, and so I took a course in poli-sci that fall, the fall of 1960. And in that class, I happened to sit behind a smart, cute, we would have said then co-ed. I know that's not longer appropriate to say, but a smart, cute young woman was sitting in front of me, and she and I started hanging out. Now, of course, this was a long time ago, so when I say hanging out, don't let your imaginations run away with you. This girl and I came from very different backgrounds. I was then a Methodist, and she was Jewish. I was a scientist. She was a humanist. And most important, in that fall's campaign season, 1960, I was a Republican, supporting Richard Nixon. And she was a Democrat, supporting John Kennedy. Our first date happened to be on the one rare weekend in those days when a woman could actually ask a man, a boy, out for a date. So with characteristic impudence, she invited me to a Kennedy rally. That was our first date. Turnabout was fair play, of course, so the next week I invited her to a rally for Richard Nixon. By the time of the election in November, 2 months later, however, she had already converted me politically. So it transpired that on a snowy day in January of 1961, we took a train from Philadelphia's 30th Street Station to Washington, D.C., and we stood in the crowd, at the back of the crowd. I could take you to the tree under which we were standing, and heard President Kennedy admonish us to ask what your country can do for you. Don't ask what your country, don't ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. I'm sorry. And now, it's more than 60 years ago, the hair on the back of my neck is rising. Because I am, at this moment, once again, that adolescent, thinking that the president was speaking personally to me. Well, that moment changed my life fundamentally in more ways than one. First, I decided on the spot to study politics and history and society, and I left math and physics and engineering. Secondly, a few years later, I converted from Methodism to Judaism. And thirdly, as many of you may have already guessed, that cute, smart co-ed and I soon married. All because of one distribution requirement. And next month, we will celebrate our 60th wedding anniversary. And she's sitting right here. That's one powerful lady. That's one powerful lady. Okay, that's the end of my tears, at least. I'm sorry. Partly because of the values that inspired the veterans who founded CMC, America in the 1960s was a society that put emphasis on our obligations to one another. The people listening to that inaugural address, the other veterans listening, It didn't seem like he was saying something bizarre. It seemed like that's what they all believed, that they all had obligations to one another, and not just to themselves. And my generation, the generation who came of age in the 60s, heard JFK speaking directly to us. So now it's fair to ask us, more than 60 years later, well, how have we done? Well, in some respects, those ensuing 6 decades have seen notable progress. More gender and racial equality, more tolerance for diversity, niftier telephones. But fundamentally, we have failed Kennedy's challenge. For in my lifetime, America has become much less a we society and much more an I society. Much of my own scholarship, it turns out, has chronicled this sea change from we to I. In terms of economics, and I'm a statistician, but I'm not going to bore you with a lot of statistics, but believe me, behind what I'm telling you, there are a lot of statistics. In terms of economics, over the last half century, America has become much less equal and much more polarized into rich and poor, changing from one of the most equal societies in the world. Do you realize that in the mid-1960s, America had a more equal distribution of wealth and income than Sweden? We were the most income. It's hard to believe that that's true, but it is. You can look it up. In social terms, America has become much more segregated into rich neighborhoods and poor neighborhoods. Think of your hometown and think of how divided it is between rich people, well, off people live and where poor people live. Americans have become much less connected to one another, much more isolated, much less neighborly, much less civically engaged, much less trusting of one another. We lock our doors and bowl alone. We volunteer less and are less charitable. Although we are wealthier, we give less of our wealth to others. We're a less generous people. Statistically speaking, we become a much less generous people, and materially and even emotionally. As you can see every day in the headlines, even in today's headlines, Americans are ever more polarized politically into factions that don't solve problems or compromise, but merely shout insults. Do you know what I'm talking about? That's today. That's happened. God didn't cause that to happen. We did. I don't mean you did. You're innocent in this. But my generation presided over this transition from an America in which people talked to one another about how to solve common problems, and we left you with just people shouting insults. And this trend did not begin just a few years ago with Trumpism. I want to make it clear. I'm not a fan of Trump, but this trend did not begin with Trump, as some would have you believe. It began more than half a century ago, and Trump is the consequence, not the cause of this deeper trend. We're a grumpier, more cynical, more self-centered, and yes, a more selfish country. Statistically, we're more selfish. We have, in short, become an I society and stopped being a we society. We have become a society that ignores our obligations to others and our obligations to future generations around the world. That's how to understand global warming. We have become a country that just ignores the fact that somebody else down the road in some other place is going to be hurt by our actions today. Gosh, you think I'm a lecturer for global warming. Well, I am in part, but I'm trying to say the underneath part is what worries me. In the time of the 60s, what I want to emphasize, first of all, is that when I was sitting where you're sitting right now, America wasn't like this. This has not been the way America's always been. It's become that way during my adulthood. At the time of the 60s, JFK's call to action sounded like reveille. Honestly, it felt like America was wakening from the dozy 50s, and we were going to get out there and fix the world, reveille. But historically, as I look back now 60 years later, with the eye of a historian, that clarion call on that snowy day in Washington wasn't reveille. It was taps for a more civic America that just then was beginning to die. Okay, well, what does all that gloomy history and these musings of a man old enough to be your grandfather or more, What does all that have to do with you on this sunny, beautiful afternoon, you may well ask? And that's the topic to which I now turn, and I promise you, I warn you that I'm only half done, but I promise you, well, the president said you could handle this stuff. I promise you that the last half of my remarks will be about you and not about me. I've just described the fearfully polarized, deeply unequal and unjust and fragmented America that my generation has bequeathed to you. But I take heart from the advice I was once given by a very good management consultant when I was complaining about the problems in my inbox, and he said, never speak of problems, speak of improvement opportunities. So I want to speak about some improvement opportunities that my generation has left to you. I'm optimistic that your generation can turn these trends these horrible trends, I'm optimistic you can turn it around because Americans just like you have done it before, and that's the history lesson, the next history lesson that I want to share with you. 125 years ago, so now listen, you don't have to take notes, but yeah, I want you to listen. 125 years ago, around 1900, America faced challenges very similar, remarkably similar to those we face today. High and rising inequality. It was called the Gilded Age because of these extremes of wealth and poverty. Within a few miles on the east side of New York, you could go from the wealthiest people in the world to some of the poorest poor immigrants on the Lower East Side in America. That was the Gilded Age. High rates of immigration that triggered social upheaval. I'm talking about then, that triggered social upheaval and white nationalism and racist violence, high rates of political corruption, widespread social isolation, people feeling lonely, great inequalities of power, a general sense that the major political parties were not helping us solve our problems. Does any of that sound familiar? It's exactly what you guys and what we're all facing today. 1900, roughly. And then in little more than a decade or two, from about 1890 to about 1910, beginning in small towns and cities all across America, from Toledo to Galveston to Sacramento, ordinary men and women began inventing, I'm choosing my words very carefully here, began inventing dozens of new institutions, playgrounds. Did you know that playgrounds had to be invented? They were invented by people in that era exactly, in this country, and high schools, and the Scouts, and the NAACP, and the Knights of Columbus, and the Sierra Club, lodges and labor unions, and settlement houses, and kindergartens. Did you know that kindergartens had to be invented? They were invented then. Less corrupt and more responsive government. They came together across party lines to force political leaders to address economic injustice with reforms like the income tax and antitrust legislation. That's where those things came from, those few reformers in that decade or two at the turn of the century, and to adopt measures that lessen political inequality, like campaign finance reform. That's where campaign finance reform came from. And it came from actually Californians in the first instance, in that period, to resolve their problems. Though mostly nonviolent, this progressive movement, as it was called, was little short of revolutionary. It was far from perfect, and I want to emphasize this. Far from perfect. I'm not saying it was nirvana, especially because many progressives still held the racist attitudes of the day. But from the point of view of America this morning, that period of reform seems almost miraculous. They faced the same problems we did, and they began to fix them. So what are the lessons? Now I'm coming to you. What are the lessons that you can learn from this history lesson? What are the lessons that you can learn from these reformers 125 years ago? There are many, but I want to focus here on 4 lessons. And the first lesson is that it was young people, just like you, who were the turnaround experts. How did we manage this? It was young people then, just like you, who placed our country on a new upward course. The leaders of the progressive movement, to speak a little bit more like a textbook, the leaders of the progressive movement were young men and women in their 20s. old folks like me hardly played any role at all, or even old folks in your parents' age. They didn't solve the problems. It was young people just like you who did. And I want to introduce a few of them to you now. I know this seems to be getting into the weeds, but I want you to listen to the kind of people who then did the job that I think you need to do now. So they were young men, like a young man named Paul Harris. He was a newly minted lawyer from the sticks who moved to Chicago and found himself lonely. So he said, maybe I can form a small luncheon group of similarly isolated young folks, young professionals here in Chicago. Within a few years, that idea, Paul Harris's idea, proved so popular that it had given birth within a few years to thousands of such clubs all across America under the banner of service to others and with the name, you've heard of it, the Rotary Club. That's where the Rotary Club came from a young man having a luncheon together with some friends to meet new people. Or a young man like Tom Johnson. Tom Johnson was a precocious rags-to-riches tycoon. You could think of him in that as the equivalent in that period of some brilliant young startup, person working in Silicon Valley or in one of the startup companies around America. So he became a rich man very, very young, just like a lot of young people become rich now. But he experienced a moral awakening after the Johnstown flood of 1889. I wish I could tell you more about it, but the main point is it killed more than 2,000 workers and their family members because of malfeasance by the owners of the factories in which they lived. It doesn't get much more vivid than this. The factory owners engaging in activities that led to this flood that killed 2,000 of their workers. Turning his talents against his erstwhile robber baron peers, Tom Johnson became the first of a new breed of charismatic reform leaders, mayors across the country. And they were young women like Frances Perkins. Frances Perkins was a privileged graduate of Mount Holyoke who happened to witness one gruesome day in 1911, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory in Lower Manhattan, where 147 young immigrant women jumped to their deaths because greedy owners and corrupt politicians had bolted the factory doors shut. Almost overnight, Frances Perkins became an ardent and practical social reformer, rising 20 years later to become the first woman cabinet member in the United States, helping FDR craft the New Deal. I want you to see these people as people you could be if you use your talents, which I know you have, and the skills that you've learned and values you've learned at this place. And finally, I'll just do one or two more. They were young women like the orphaned former slave Ida B. Wells, she's far too little known, who became an elementary school teacher despite the fact that she had virtually no formal education, until one day in 1884 she was dragged off a train car reserved for whites. As a consequence of that episode, she became a fiery journalist and crusader the rest of her life against racial inequality and is credited with reducing racial lynchings by 90% during this very period. And above all, Jane Addams, founder of the Settlement House movement at Hull House and inspirational leader of this progressive movement, she received the Nobel Prize for her work in 1931, an aging 70-something woman, but she won the award for work she had begun in the Chicago slums as a reformist 20-something a half a session later. So the first lesson from that almost forgotten era is this: if we are going to get America out of the mess that we're in now, it will be you and your peers who lead the way. That's the only way it's going to happen. The second lesson is that the progressive movement was bottom-up, not top-down. Historically speaking, we often think of Theodore Roosevelt, as the leader of the progressive movement. He was actually like the French Revolutionary leader who saw a parade and ran around to get in front of it. The really important innovations of the progressive era did not come from Washington or Harvard or the West Coast. They came from ordinary citizens in ordinary places across America. The really important innovations of this era, like workers' compensation, social insurance, environmental regulation. These are the people, and this is the time when we first of all began to regulate environmental degradation. All of those had come from hundreds of local experiments in laboratories across America, laboratories of democracy across America, decades earlier. So here's one example that may startle you. I'm conscious that I'm sounding an awful lot like a college professor, and of course, I am. In 1910, but just stick with me for a moment. In 1910, for the first time in world history, Americans invented the public high school. I mean, you probably thought God invented the high school, but no, it was done by ordinary Americans in 1910. And when I say a public high school, I mean a four-year school that you didn't have to pay, you didn't have to be rich, you didn't have to pass the test. Just because you were a kid, you got 4 years of free high school education, a free secondary education. And that invention, where did that come from? Washington? No. Harvard? No. It came from what we now scorn as flyover country, from small towns in the Midwest, Iowa and Kansas and so on. This innovation, just the high school alone, accounts for most of American economic growth throughout the whole of the 20th century. So this was a big deal. And in that period, it went, but this is before the internet, of course, it went viral because within 2 decades of the invention in rural Nowheresville, every community in America had a high school. What I'm trying to say is, if the second lesson of the progressive era for your generation is if you want to get ahead of the curve in fixing America, and I hope you do, go local. Don't go to Washington or Cambridge or Stanford, but go to Raleigh or Minneapolis or Fresno or other small towns. That's where the opportunities for working across party lines to be able to begin to be able to solve practical problems. The third, and I am now coming closer to a conclusion, the third key innovation of the progressive movement was that it built ties across lines of politics and religion and social class and region and to some extent even race. It built ties among differences, across lines of difference. Ordinarily, as my grandmother told me, birds of a feather flock together. What she meant to say was bridging social capital is harder to build than bonding social capital, but she didn't think I would understand that metaphor, so she used that language. So she used the bird-like metaphor. The great fraternal organizations, I'm talking about that period, were bridging. The great fraternal organizations, like the Elks and the Masons, were mostly male, at least in the early years, but they readily accommodated men from different social classes and different regions and different political parties. Churches of that era included the same church would include both laborers and lawyers. That is, people were meeting people across barriers of class in these organizations. And both men and women were equal in those institutions, in religious institutions, though they weren't yet equal across the country. The NAACP itself was founded by whites as well as blacks. These cross-cutting ties tended to inhibit polarization because it's hard to hate someone if you sit next to them in the pews or forgive me, in a bowling alley. If you meet every week with someone in a bowling alley, it's just hard to hate them, even if they turn out to be, backers of Nancy Pelosi or backers of other people. So would-be progressives today, and this is my third lesson for your generation, should seek new ways of bringing Americans, and especially young Americans, together across these myriad cleavages of politics and religion and race and region and ethnicity and class and gender that divide us. We've got way too many divisions. So think especially about inventing ways to come together across those lines. And don't follow the earlier progressives in sidestepping issues of racial injustice. And finally, the most fundamental cause for the emergence of the progressive era, and this is my fourth lesson for you, fourth but not least important. Social scientists like me, and maybe most Americans, tend to think that culture and morality is kind of froth on the waves of history. That deep under the surface, it's really economics, we tend to think, that drives everything. So if you understand the economics, don't worry about the ideas and values and so on. But as we delved into the historical record, my colleague Shailene Romney Garrett and I discovered that before the progressive wave had crested at the turn of the century in politics, American public morality had sharply shifted. Now, stick with me for a minute, because this is going to turn out to be the most important thing I tell you, I think. So, it was moral change that led the other changes. Social Darwinism, a knockoff of Darwin's theory of evolution, had argued that through the survival of the fittest and natural selection and, red in tooth and claw and all that stuff, the best beings got to the top. That's what Darwin argued, and therefore, some other people had a knockoff of Darwin's theory. He didn't believe what I'm about to say, but they did. That through the survival of the fittest and natural selection, anything that transferred resources from the rich to the poor anything that transferred from the haves to the have-nots would halt progress. I mean, it's hard to believe people actually believe this. It was a crazy theory, but that did not stop racist theorists, and even the Ku Klux Klan from claiming the mantle of this sort of fake Darwinian theory for their eugenic systems. But by the 1890s, a directly contrary moral theory began to sweep social Darwinism from the field. This new approach, which was called the social gospel, came initially from evangelical Protestants who pointed out that in the Sermon on the Mount, Christ himself had castigated the rich and scorned the self-centered and blessed who? Didn't bless the rich, he blessed the meek and the poor. This new moral conscience, emphasizing our duties to others, spread rapidly through our other major religions and even to secular society, and the Golden Rule once more, after a period in which it had been lost, the Golden Rule became more central as a result of this moral transformation. So the fourth historical lesson, the last historical lesson from the progressive era, suggests that today we need a new generation of leaders, and now I am speaking directly to you, committed to moral revival, not just changing America, but framing issues in moral terms, not just in technical terms, exactly as Greta Thunberg does. The interesting about Greta Thunberg is not that she's young, and not that she's in favor of action against global warming, it's that she phrases it in moral terms. She says it's morally wrong for old folks like me to be saddling your generation, with this burden. So you are your siblings' keepers, your brothers and sisters' siblings. So this is my prescription for what ails America now. A new, young generation of leaders who are themselves diverse, I'm looking at you guys, who are practically oriented, eager to bring grassroots change, and socially conscious. Does that sound like CMC graduates? It sounds like Identica. It sounds exactly like CMC. You bet it does. You're the heirs of the earlier progressives, and this is why I'm at the end coming exactly to you. You are the guys who face exactly the same challenges that they did 100 years ago. They were not the prisoners of history. They were the agents of history. They changed history. Most Americans of that, indeed most young people of that era, were deeply cynical and pessimistic and apathetic. Just like many of your peers today, you're not typical. Because you're sitting where you are right now, you're not typical of young people in America. You're special. Just as the young progressive leaders. They did not believe that the future would take care of itself, and neither should you. It will happen if you make it happen. So your generation has what I earlier termed an improvement opportunity. And our country today faces a lengthy list of problems. But you, collaborating with others, your generation can reverse these trends. You didn't cause these trends, but only you can lead the way to a more diverse, a more tolerant, a more cohesive, a more equal society. A society in which rather than shout or shoot at one another, we listen to one another. Actually listen. You can do this. This has been the almost unique purpose of your years in this beautiful place, as illustrated by the Care Center to Mitigate Social Division. That's designed to inculcate in you these skills, and the Open Academy. So I'm deeply hopeful that you will rise to the task. I'm at an end now. Your generation has the challenge and the opportunity to hear Kennedy's admonition again. Ask not what others can do for you. Ask what you can do for others. Talk is not enough. Because as I said at the outset, your lives will speak more loudly than your words. So what will you say with your lives? Thank you very much.
Thank you for those inspiring remarks. It is now my pleasure to confer 2 honorary degrees today, pursuant to the resolutions adopted by the Board of Trustees and approved by the faculty. Professor Tamara Vanette Shelton, Professor of History, and Trustee Jeffrey Klein, Class of 1975, and parent, classes of 2008, 2011, and 2014, please join us for our first presentation. Professor Putnam, please join us at the podium. Professor Putnam, in recognition of your many contributions and achievements as a visionary global leader and in the humanities, and a prolific author, researcher, and educator whose work has inspired and deepened our understanding of community in America, Claremont McKenna College hereby confers upon you the honorary degree of Doctors of Laws with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto, in token of which we cause you to be vested with the hood of the college appropriate to your degree and present you with this citation and accompanying diploma.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Now, as part of Class of 23, we will see what you will do with the same words that you shared with us. It is now my pleasure to confer a second honorary degree pursuant to the resolutions adopted by the Board of Trustees and approved by the faculty. Chairman of the Board, David McGrublian, Class of 1982, and parent, Class of 2001, and Trustee Robert Nakasone, will you please join me for the presentation? Trustee Robert Nakasone, Class of 1969, and parent, Class of 1998, in recognition of your many contributions and achievements as a leader in business, education, and philanthropy, Claremont McKenna College hereby confers upon you the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto, in token of which we cause you to be vested with the hood of the college appropriate to your degree and present you with this citation and accompanying diploma. We now have reached the part of the program that everyone has been waiting for, the conferring of the degrees. Woo! I would like to invite President Chodosh to join us at the podium. That was a little high for me. I ask that all the candidates for both the master's degree and the bachelor's degrees please rise. Mr. President, I now have the honor to present the candidates here today, together with others, for the degree of Masters of Arts in Finance and the degree of Bachelor of Arts as appropriate, as recommended by the faculty and as approved by the Board of Trustees.
By the authority vested in me as President of Claremont McKenna College, I now confer upon you the degree of Master of Arts in Finance and the degree of Bachelor of Arts as appropriate, as recommended by the faculty and approved by the Board of Trustees. Will all graduates please now move your tassels from the left to the right with your right hand and be seated.
It is now my honor to recognize the graduates receiving a degree of Masters of Arts in Finance and the graduates receiving the combined degrees of Bachelor of Arts and Masters of Arts, MA and BA, MBA graduates. Please come forward as your names are read to receive your diplomas.
Katie Holshauser. Sophie Schleifer. Fan Xiong. Joshua Engel. Mahali Hannah Bahar. Michael Colangelo. Elizabeth Iwicki. Adam Koshut. Natalie Leung. Christina Wen. Benjamin Peltz. Harrison Weir. Sabrina Joe.
Welcome your applause for the MA and BA MA class of 2023. It is now my honor to recognize the graduates receiving a degree of Bachelor of Arts. Graduates, please come forward as your names are read to receive your diplomas.
Kimiko Adler. Axel Audritz. Alexander Stephen Albrecht. Joshua Chase Allen. Karen Almachi. Mia Faith Almond. Julian Thomas Amaya. Tatiana Victoria Amaya. Christopher Amemia. Somu Amujala. Aryan Anand. Trevor Anderson. Eva Augst. Nicola Victoria Augustin. Nishka Iyer. Byung-Jun Bae. Kyle Kenji Balik. Sawyer Peyton Bannister. Noah Battaglia. Catherine Beinkampen. Roman Antonio Bergeron. Marshall Arthur Bessie. Ravraj Bular. Emily Maya Bisaga. Samuel Chase Bogan. Jacob Bowles. Nathaniel Braswell. Kayla Brown. Cindy Yarina Berga Romero. Christian Campbell. Anthony Nicholas Vito Carano. JC Lynn Carter. Rhett Carter. Kara Jane Cato. Annie Cave. Mariela Centeno. Vikram Chatterjee. Natalie Chavez. Claire Elena Chen. Fong Zhongyi Kylie Chen. Catherine Jo Chen. Chaoling Chen. Monica Rinju Chung. Matthew Choi. Samuel Pinkett Choatson. Ji Wan Chung. Ren Sillenberg. Jamie Coburn. Andrew Cohen. Samantha Cohen. Celeste Kohler. Daniela Corona. Dia Corti Stephens. Kyra Cousins. Connor Cryan. Wesley Dale. Kieran Daly. Sophia Isabel de Castro. Roberto Jose de Leon Arriaga. Nicholas DeMello. William Daniel DeForest. Lucy Yawen Dung. Bryce Desjardins. Zarina Kismet Dillon. Sophia Jomande. Tarika Dorairaj. Hannah Felice Doyle. Tyler James Dugan. Addison Ailey Duval. Sophie Dvorkin. Ben Eibel. Eris James Elliott. Corin Elmore. Justin Esters. Michael Etchandi. Najib Fakuri. Thomas Falchi. Miriam Farah. Abelino Fernandez Ledger. Emily Juliette Fernandez. Luke Field. Olivia Fish. Zachary Fogel. Camille Elizabeth Forte. Theodore James Fournier. Leanne Frenetsky. Angela Gagnon. Madeline Elizabeth Galbraith. Allie Gallagher. Caden Gallant. Noah Galper. Joey Ganley. Lulu Raylu Gao. Christopher Garnett. Hanan Baramasi. Maria Magid Gurges. Alexis Giroux. Benjamin Glass. Amanda Lynn Goldman. Valentina Gonzalez. Jennifer Granados Rojas. Jack Elliott Grassberger. Sophie Lena Grossman. Mackenzie Groover. Juliana Gutierrez Hudson. Ian Habestad. Spencer Hagenbook. Tatum Grace Hall. Michael Howe. Leah Harrell. Simon Harsani. Henry Terrence Harvigo. Vida Hassan. Camille Hermosillo. Viola Maria Hernandez Derbez. Elizabeth Hernandez. Nicholas Hernandez. Mayan Hinduja. Kira Lee Hirsch. Jack Holden. Lena Hong. Courtney Hooks. Sydney Hooks. Mustafa Samer Horani. Monmon Maple Tet. Emery Huang. Joanna Huang. Lucas Hyman. Thomas Ivashkiv. Ali Joffrey. Kalpita Jain. Freya Douglas Jennison. Aisha Doinsola Jamo. Grace Johnson. Jasmine Prakash Joshi. Bryn Porter Cable. Sojung Kang. Siri Anna Scott Kazalonis. Kier Keenan. Brian Kenyon. Luca Amrit Khalsa. Saneen Khan. Nishka Harish Kupchandani. Nessa Kiani. Abigail Joy Kim. Hyung Jin Kim. Jeannie Kim. Jeffrey Kim. Singmin Amy Kim. Sophia Eugen Kim. David Youngkwan Kim. Annika Kimmy. Danielle Anya Klapstein. Julia Knowlton. Truman Thomas Evans Knowles. Nathaniel Thomas Cocho. Jarrett Dryden Corson. Daniel Wheeler Crossaman. Kieran Alexander Cruz. Yuma Kuga. Christina Gail Kulik. Matthew Joseph Landeros. Gregory Fox Larrabee. Annika Oyoung Larson. Kristen LeBlanc. Lauren Ledbetter. Gabby Faith Lee. Troy Lenbauer. Augusta Hill Lewis. Mushi Lee. Zhu Tao Flora Lee. Ava Liao. Marcus James Lindsay. Michaela Alice Lipsky. Boyoung Liu. Ariana Levy. Eric Herbert Lemus. Brian Forrest Loudermilk Jr. Grace Hawaije Liu. Molly Elizabeth Luce. Jason Ma. Lucy Mahoney. McKenna Claire Marr. Hassan Majid. Jeditya Shekhar Malier. Desmond Mantle. Samantha Pauline Manois. Nicholas Borislav Maramitsa. Sophie Lorraine Mars. Nicholas Maurice. Madison Force McHugh. Tara Mera. Jess Miller. Elizabeth Mitchell. Jameson Lee Mitchum. Carlos David Montelongo. Daniel Yvonne Monson. Marco Antonio Morfine. Jay Morris. Selena Aurora Munoz. Josh Nagra. Sahana Narayan. Atulia Noth. Zoya Navaz. Annette Injay. Majela Norwood. Nicole Overlog. Eunice O. Nicholas Michael Ong. Sarai Perez Ortega. Case Ostrom. Oluwatomi Oyedeji Olanio. Annika Ozismir. William Allen Parker. Abigail Grace Parrish. Jasmine Paralis. Letitia Cecilia Akiba Peters. Holman Dean Pettibone IV. Akriti Podell. Michelle Lourdes Ramirez. Olivia Renfro. Vera Resendez. Isaac Jose Reyes. Paul Roche. Ednilson Henry Rodriguez Sorto. Wendy Rodriguez. Yesenia Yarolis Rodriguez Pizarro. Sofia Alexis Rojas. Jocelyn Ruelas. Matthew Viencu San Luis. Mayeli Estrella Santos. Sumer Singh Sareen. Alexander Xiao. Amay Shaw. Kaval Shaw. Heather Marie Shipley. Joe Anthony Silva. Sarah Grace Simeones. Brooke Simon. Natasha Mary Singaretti. Nisha Singh. Kaylin Rachel Smith. Sydney Miller Smith. Noelle Song. India Frances Sorensen Way. Paige Sorgen. Jonathan Soriano. William Allen Spangler. Lauren Page Spencer. Amrita Srinivasan. Madeline Standley. Zuzia Stajic. Jack Stern. Cameron Stevens. William Wayne Stewart III. Madeline Stickley. Sabrina Jillian Stone. Amel Stotele. Stella Dunham Stroifert. Henrik Dmitri Strombach. Hannah Gray Stewart. Marin Summers. Jutin Suri. Sam Swanson. Anya Syed. Anif Taha. Marissa Talcott. Joseph Ian Tanuri. Mohin Yusu Chachua. Sahil Tekchandani. John Joey Dizon Telebrico. Hunter Thompson. Louis Thrall. Zach Torrey. Jillian Torza. Phil Tran. Nin Lele Ton. Abran Vasquez. Ansh Vora. Alex Joseph Wahba. Will Wallace. Angie Wong. Belinda Cushion Wong. William Wang. Sunny Jitchu Wong. Emily Warner. Christy Way. Benjamin Weldon. Noah Weldon. Chloe Fiorine Wibawa. Christopher Wick. Philip Williams. Robert Quincy Williams II. Nicholas Wilson. Devin Elena Rodriguez Wolf. Edward Wu. Melinda Sheeman. Mohammed Waji Yassin. Elizabeth Toshime Yoshitake. Alessia Gabriela Zanobini. Nicholas Zhang. Weiliang Zhang. Yaqin Zhang. Aileen Jun. William Joe.
All right, everybody, let's stand up and give the class of 2023 a big round of applause. All right, folks, you'll never find those hats again, but have a seat just for a moment. What a moment. What a moment, everybody. right now, my heart swells and aches and swells up quickly again for every one of you. Swells with love for all you here to celebrate. The love and care of our parents, families, and friends who have sacrificed so much. The financial stress, the worry with you far away. I might add patience in the wake of many unanswered texts. The unconditional support and high expectations, the championship of our graduates through thick and thin. Let's give all of our families and friends a round of applause. The dedicated brilliance and love of our faculty and staff, including the legendary retiring Mark Massoud, who has demonstrated, let's give Mark a hand. Who has single-handedly demonstrated over a career of 43 years that love is the most powerful medium for all learning, even in the discipline of accounting, and that's a tough test case. The leadership and generosity of our Board of Trustees and alumni, incalculable contributions of time, talent, and treasure to fuel this rocket ship we call CMC as it soars through our 75th commencement today. From the original idea of this college in this rocky valley of orchards to prepare this next generation for our future world of affairs, to now this gorgeous campus on Parents Field to prepare for a future that is now. We express pride in our outstanding graduates, your shared commitments to strive for excellence, to build a close-knit community, to leverage the fusion of learning and experience, all in order to produce a powerful, virtuous cycle of expanding opportunity. We celebrate all the moments that got you here, all the moments you made here for yourselves to get to this point, a proud finish as you graduate, a thrilling start as you commence. We have no fear of spreading virus today. Instead, we spread joy, we spread pride, we spread championship in one another. And yet, my heart aches too for the deep loss, delayed experience, social disconnection. You arrived and suddenly left. Theo roamed the campus for 18 months looking for scraps of food, looking for you on the deck of the hub, sniffing North Quad doors just to see signs of your return. The first year back, we muddled through the virus and policy whiplash. This year, we tried to restore, like a diaspora community with a lost language, a compromised social memory, looking for social warmth in a cold, rainy winter, peering through our tears to reimagine our community. This has been tough and wonderful, hard and fun, disappointing and rewarding, hitting us all in different, at times unfair ways. COVID may be over, but we are not over it, not over its profound effects. The amplification of effective divisions, even against shared outrage and grieving in the wake of senseless violence, the devastating repeating shocks and resulting fear, unfairly distributed across race and other divisions, from the murder of George Floyd and others to mass murders in our schools and public squares, amplifying our most recent pandemic, as recently framed by the U.S. Surgeon General, loneliness, a national health crisis. Professor, we're bowling alone to have a title today. It might be alone, no longer bowling. And yet, All that said, as I look out at this assembly of the beautiful people that Priya and I most love in the world, my heart swells back up again. Because today, here, we open the closed doors, we cross this stage, this threshold, we rally with the resilience Annette leads us to reinforce, we roll together in the intellectual exchange across disciplines and embrace the ostensibly contradictory pursuits that Emory champions in our class of 2023. We push through the barriers led by our students, from Tatiana Amaya of Philadelphia, who surmounted unimaginable challenges to put herself so successfully through college, to become our only Truman Scholar finalist in 2022, and who is heading off to Washington, D.C. to get her master's and create educational opportunities for others through the Urban Teachers Program at American University. All the way on the other end of the alphabet to Mo Yassin from Tamran in northern Israel, who years ago, on his way to take the SAT in Jerusalem, was struck by a rubber bullet that glanced off his back before being detained by the military. His commitment, his dream to come to the US for college was so fierce that Mo fought through the trauma, arrived at the site, and took the test. And the rest is history. He's now off to Seattle to work for West River Group. Before my charge to the class, I have a challenge for all of us in attendance today. Earlier this year, Cornel West came to the Athenaeum and inspired us all with his love and humanity, his unmatched erudition and brilliance, and he asked a simple question. When you go through college, does college go through you? I would like to build on Brother West's question today by asking, when our graduates go through CMC and CMC passes through them, do their stories pass through all of us too? Can we learn from our outstanding graduates how to overcome our own loss, how to surmount the barriers that frustrate our success, how to traverse the divisions that cut in to what holds us together? Fences. We all carry a healthy ambivalence about the demarcation of space through barriers, walls, fences. Property rights, secured borders between countries, the mapping of voting districts. Those are big questions for our graduates to grapple with, for all of us. From the political to the personal, we appear to be torn between, on the one hand, the comfort of being enclosed by fences, the sense of our special place and community in the world, and the excitement of stepping through them, over the threshold of our discomfort, the sense that we can expand our place and community in the world. On the one hand, Frost tells us, good fences make good neighbors. Gregory Dreiser goes further. Fences tell us where we belong and who we are in relation to others. On the other hand, Bill Clinton warns, a world without walls is the only sustainable world. Ronald Reagan aspires, there are no constraints on the human mind, no walls around the human spirit, no barriers to our progress except those we ourselves erect. Where do we look for answers? Our poets, our politicians may help, but today we look within. For within, we find the lessons, the stories, the values that live beneath the surface of our census data, our resumes, or LinkedIn pages. 3 images that inspire my charge to the class of 2023. Brown blanket, chain link fence, open palm. Brown blanket. Some fences are criminal. They imprison us. we discover freedom. The resolution on our great trustee, Bob Nakasone, and his extraordinary journey, his selfless contributions back to this college, rests largely on one underlying untold story. The story of an 80-year-old brown blanket he still possesses. The blanket's from his mother, Kay, who just recently passed away at age 98. This was not an ordinary blanket. This was an Army-issued internment camp blanket for Japanese Americans unjustly incarcerated during World War II. After forcibly losing all of her family belongings and never being repaid for them, Kay received this blanket as she was forced to stay in a cold horse stable at the Assembly Center in Washington State Fairgrounds, right before she was moved to a more permanent internment camp in Minidoka, Idaho. This was the only source of any warmth Kay had left, and I might add, unlike this ceremony today, at age 18, by the time her graduation took place in high school, she was already interned. She received her diploma not on a wonderful stage like this, but in the bottom of a stadium, handed her diploma by the warden of the camp. Over his lifetime, for Bob Nakasone, his mom's brown blanket served as a symbol of inspiration, an artifact to honor his parents' resilience, a source of comfort on an unimaginable journey to and beyond this college, from winning baseball championships with Coach Arce in Europe, to building a beautiful family, trailblazing career, and philanthropic legacy. Yes, he went through CMC. CMC went through him and all he accomplished. Chain link fence. Some fences keep us out of the public square. We find a way in. A few weeks ago, when I had the honor of speaking with Professor Putnam, I asked if he could recall a personal experience from his youth that drove or motivated the body of his lifelong contributions. Why him? Why this? He recalled a moment when he was 6 years old. He was standing just outside a playground, looking through a chain link fence with his hands high and his fingers intertwined. On the other side of the fence, kids were playing and having a blast. And young Bob Putnam thought, I want to play with them. They don't want to play with me. He could have collapsed his life into that feeling. Instead, he invested a lifetime of scholarship, and along with his wife Rosemary, a generous scholarship, to transcend that fence, not only for himself, but others left out on the exterior, to see the value of community and civic connection and friendship and play, to encourage us all to reverse the corrosion of our civic life and bowl together again. Open palm. Some fences are those we ourselves create, many that we cannot see. We invite outsiders in. Just a couple weeks ago, I was telling Professor Putnam's story to a graduating senior in my office, another classmate from this outstanding class, Truman Knowles. And I asked whether there was an image like that for him, something vivid and powerful and defining and motivating. In contrast to Professor Putnam's story, an inspiring response to the feeling of being left outside, Truman spoke of posture. What did that mean to him, I asked. And he explained to me that he tries to meet every encounter, every person or group with an open palm, not a clenched fist, recoiling in defense for a fight, an open palm to invite everyone in. That open palm is Truman's posture toward every person, every community, including those locked outside. A powerful ethos on his quest to cure rare pediatric disease. Now, I want everyone to imagine Truman on the other side of Professor Putnam's fence, inviting him in. Annette is absolutely right. This is about more than just making friends. This is about the commitment to open the gate and welcome in those on the outside. This is Emory's commitment to learn and engage together. This is the courage of Zach, Daryl, DT, Mo, Tati, Annette to emerge from the confined places of the world's unjust constraints. The inspiration of Bob Nakasone, never to forget where we or our ancestors have been, and to hold and cherish the legacy of his mom Kay's brown blanket. And once we're up the ladder or just inside, to extend Truman's open palms to anyone left behind. With all of us rolling, bowling together. Folks, today, my point is this. The answers are here within each of us. We only have to see them, grasp them, apply them, contribute them to others. So, clutching the brown blanket to remind us of our struggles, climbing the chain link fence, our palms open, even to those whose fists are clenched, I would like now to ask this outstanding class of 2023 to stand for your charge. Class of 2023, sear a constellation of these stories, these images deep in your hearts. Don't rest in the confines that the world imposes. Don't rest in dangerous comfort of your own good fortune. Let these stars in your soul light every single step. Navigate through unwanted barriers. Traverse the chosen thresholds of your dreams. Turn your deficits into dividends. Rubber bullets into your resilience. Turn injury into remedy, disease into cure. Turn fences into your bridges. Dead ends into your new trails. Let others into you, and you into others. Let the them into us, and the us into them. Keep running through CMC, and CMC running through you. Brown blankets to hold, fences to flatten, palms to open. We roll together, we bowl together. Congratulations to the class of 2023. Congratulations to you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your participation in Claremont McKenna College's 75th commencement exercises. President Chodosh and Priya Junar invite you to join them for a reception on Gad Quadrangle at Kravis Center. Just walk east, follow the setting sun. And now please stand and remain at your places while the recessional recesses. Thank you.